One of the more powerful features provided in this Faceware Glassbox workflow for our MetaHuman facial performances is the inclusion of the Motion Logic folder from Glassbox. If we go into this folder in our content browser, we'll find that it contains a directory called Curves. Going into the Curves folder, we find a response curve defined for each value being streamed from Faceware. These curves are used by the facial animation blueprint to fine-tune the performance of the MetaHuman. Each one of these curves provides us an opportunity to custom tune the response of our MetaHuman performance with relation to the performances that are being tracked in Faceware Studio. Let's take a look at an example. If we look at our facial performance being tracked here in Faceware and hit pause, you can see that there's a few moments where we notice that the jaw of our performer is open a bit more than that of our MetaHuman. This performance is a little nuanced and not necessarily something that we would adjust with a multiplier or want to develop a custom Python script for. Instead, we could easily define a response curve using one of the curves in the Motion Logic folder that allow us to tune the response of our MetaHuman face in regards to the performance being tracked in Faceware Studio. So let's go ahead and do that for the jaw. I'll go here into our Unreal Engine setup. I'll stop simulation and find the curve that drives our jaw open. So I'll go here into Search Curves and type in jaw. And here we find that there's a curve that's called Base Jaw Open. Now, rather than edit the existing curve, I'll make a copy of this so that I can make a custom set of responses for just this MetaHuman. So I'll select the jaw open curve, hit Ctrl W to duplicate it, and simply add a suffix of VO2 to the end of this. So I'll delete the default one, underscore VO2. Hit Enter, and finally right-click and choose Save to save this new version of the curve. Next, I want to make a new version of the facial performance blueprint so that I can preserve the original blueprint for future MetaHumans that will use the default curves. So I'll go back to our Motion Logic folder, deactivate my search filters, and find the ABP FW MetaHuman Face blueprint. Again, this blueprint is currently configured in the face component of our MetaHuman to drive that facial performance. Selecting this blueprint, I'll use Ctrl W again to create a duplicate. Again, adding the suffix VO2 to the end. So I'll delete one, underscore VO2. Enter, and right-click, Save. With this blueprint saved, we can now take the face component of our MetaHuman and set it to use this new blueprint. Clicking on here, we'll choose the version 2 of this blueprint. So now, our MetaHuman is being driven by our new copy of the blueprint. The next step in our setup is to configure our blueprint so that it uses the new curve that we create to drive the jaw. So we'll double-click our version 2 blueprint to open the blueprint editor. I'll maximize this window, and here on the right side, we can see all of the different curves that are used by this blueprint to drive our facial performances. Let's scroll down to find the jaw curves. Here they are. And here we have the jaw open curve. So we'll select this, and instead of using the default jaw open, we'll use the version 2 version of our curve. With that change made, we want to make sure to hit Apply here in the lower right-hand corner. And finally, use Compile and Save to complete our changes. With this done, we can close our blueprint editor, and now our facial performance will be driven by that new curve. Finally, let's go ahead and open up that curve editor by going into the Curves folder. We'll search for VO2, find our new curve, and double-click. So here's the performance curve. And now let's adjust this by using the data coming from Faceware to inform the adjustments that we make. So I'll make this a little bit smaller in our viewport. Right-click to adjust the position of this curve in the window. And we'll go back to Faceware. And let's see what value we're getting here. Right now, if I go to my Animation tab and look at Jaw Open, I can hover over this and see that a value of 0.21 is being transmitted by Faceware right now. I can click Simulate Mode here in Unreal Engine and see that the jaw isn't quite open enough. In order to have fine control over the position of any keys that I add to this curve, I'm going to deactivate these two magnets that are allowing our keys to be snapped. Horizontally, I'll find a point on the curve that corresponds to about 0.21 and use my middle mouse button to add a new key. I'll right-click on this key and choose Auto. Gives us a little Bezier handles. And now I can click and drag this key vertically to open the mouth of our MetaHuman a little bit more. Maybe I'll click the first key and adjust its curve handle to make this a little smoother. And now our MetaHuman jaw, if I look at Faceware, is a closer match to what we have in our Performer. Let's see if there are any other values that we might want to address. There's a point here where our Performer has her mouth open quite a bit, right here. So again, our Performer's mouth is open more than our MetaHuman's. Let's apply an adjustment to take care of that. Hovering over jaw open in Faceware, we see we're getting a value of 0.43. Back in our curve editor, again, horizontally, I'll move along the curve until I find 0.43. Middle mouse click to create a key, right click and set it to auto, and then I'm just going to click and drag that up just a bit more. Excellent. Finally, I'll adjust the end point of my curve so that this eases in to the maximum opening. So in this way, we've now adjusted the response curve of our MetaHuman performance to more closely match the performance that we're getting from our actor as it's being tracked in Faceware. Playing this back, we're getting a much more dynamic performance from the jaw of our MetaHuman and a much better match with our original performance. In our next modules, we'll start looking at how we can record and manipulate the data that we're getting from Faceware.